What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out the brand new Foolish Burial card that just got revealed coming out of Soul Fusion. I told you guys before, these are the type of cards that I really like. Even if they don't continue a lore, I really like when Konami tries to reinvent a card or they try to continue a theme of cards very similar to like Hey True Nade that got released in Flames of Destruction. I really like when they do that and they give us like new variations of super old cards. And obviously the Foolish cards are ones that have seen a lot of competitive play, and I mean honestly Konami has kind of been 2 for 2. You guys know we have the original Foolish Burial. That card is super old. It's been restricted to 1 in the TCG for what seems like forever, basically since the card was first released. We have Foolish Burial Goods that got released in the Arc V era. What set did that come out of? I don't know off the top of my head, but Foolish Burial Goods has been a pretty good card. Mainly it's been used with Metaphos Fusion. We even see that in the pure version of Sky Strikers. Been pretty successful. You can use it in other decks like Luna Lights to send Perfume to the grave. I've seen it on occasion, people sending like Toy Vendor to the grave, but the card has actually seen a little bit of play, and now the newest version basically works with the extra deck, because I was kind of wondering where Konami could go with a Foolish Burial. I was like, well, we have one for monsters, we have one for spells and traps. I guess the extra deck is kind of the natural progression. So this is Foolish Mass Burial. It's a normal spell card that says you can only activate one card with this card's name per turn, and during the turn this card is activated, you cannot set spell or trap cards. Pay half your life points, then send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. So yeah, this card definitely has a pretty heavy cost. Konami doesn't really want you being able, I guess to, I mean, I'm trying to wonder like why they would put the whole you can't set spells or traps in the turn that you activated. I mean, most decks that use kind of like the Foolish cards don't really run a lot of back row anyways. I mean, think about like the Foolish Burial Goods, you know, decks like Luna Lights and Fluffles, like those are super aggressive decks. Even Foolish Burial, you know, you think Zombies and Lightsworn and stuff like that. So I generally don't associate decks that want to get stuff into the graveyard quickly with, you know, control decks. I don't really think that that's going to be that big of a deal. Cutting your life points in half, that is actually pretty significant though, because obviously if you activate this card turn 1, you know, dipping your life points to 4,000, that can be pretty significant. However, when you look at this card's effect, it is incredibly strong and there is a ton of utility there. In fact, I kind of feel like there's more utility with Massive Foolish Burial than there actually is with Foolish Burial Goods. I mean, you think of some of the cards and some of the effects that you can really exploit from extra deck monsters being sent to the graveyard. If you're playing a deck like Burning Abyss, you can send Dante straight from your extra deck to the graveyard and you can recover basically any Burning Abyss monster. So that can basically be like a warrior returning alive for any of your BA monsters. You can use Elder Entity Nethys. That can basically blow up any card your opponent has on their side of the field, and it doesn't really, you know, care if it's face up, face down, or whatever. One of the really good ones is Herald of the Arc Light, because this can act as an instant searcher for any ritual spell or any ritual monster. If you're playing like a ritual deck, if you're playing Herald, a lot of times you'll see like people use Geldagra, and that's kind of a cheese play, but that does eat up your normal summon. And if you don't get the Geldagra, this can basically be a substitute. You can send Predaplant Chimera Rafflesia to the graveyard during the next standby phase. That gets you any fusion cards you want. And there's even a really obscure play with number 71. It's kind of cool. This is a card that when it's sent to the graveyard, it lets you put any rank up on top of your deck. You can put rank up to 7th one on top of your deck, and as long as you don't shuffle your deck or your opponent puts something on top of your deck, you are going to draw the 7th one, and that card is actually fucking broken if you happen to resolve that effect. Usually, I think maybe only one time ever since I've been playing this game have I ever lost when I resolved the 7th one of its own effect, but it's very unlikely that you do. So this card definitely has a whole bunch of utility, and honestly, there's just a lot of things you can do. Heck, I didn't even mention the fact that you can send Shadow monsters like the fusions to the graveyard, and then you can recover like your Shadow spells and traps. And I guess you would also potentially have like your graveyard, you could have a dark monster in there for BLS or something like that, or if, you know, Construct ever comes back, that would be like a light monster. But I like the design of this card. I wish that it didn't have the life point, you know, restriction in there, but honestly, I feel like this is going to open the door for there to be a whole lot of utility effects. If you're playing something like Psyframes, you can recover one of your Psyframe cards from your graveyard. Like, that's pretty cool as well. So you guys let me know what you think of the new Foolish Mask Burial and leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.